Thank you for tuning in to the Afternoon Pint Podcast. Our show will start right after these messages from our sponsors.
Hey, Matt. We're thinking of selling our home and finding a bigger place.
Oh, really? I thought you guys loved where you lived.
Oh, we do. Our family is just growing. With pets. A dog, a cat, 2 guinea pigs, a hamster.
And you're planning on getting more?
Maybe a goat or a crocodile.
Well, I have the person for you. Kimmy Najad is an experienced real estate agent who prides herself in finding the perfect home for her clients.
We're just browsing now. I'm not sure if we really need a realtor yet.
Yeah, no worries. Kimmy can help you with the comparative market analysis to help you determine the value of your home if you're planning on selling, or help you determine the going rate for the neighborhood you're moving into. She can also work at your pace.
Awesome. All right, I'll give her a shot. What's her phone number?
On Facebook, Kimmy Najad, Exit Realty Metro. Her phone number is 902-880-8429, and her email is kimia@exitmetro.ca.
902-880-8429. Awesome. Thanks.
This podcast was brought to you by Dan Lomas. That's LOMAS of lomasfinancial.ca.
Are you a small business owner who wants to keep more of your hard-earned profits and pay less taxes to the CRA? Do you want to plan for a comfortable and secure retirement? If your answer is yes, then you need to talk to Dan Lomas at Lomas Financial.
Dan Lomas is a financial advisor who has been helping successful entrepreneurs and business owners for over 2.5 decades. He utilizes customized solutions that can help you keep your earnings, dramatically reducing passive income tax.
Dan Lomas and his team will help you transition corporate wealth into personal wealth by utilizing customized executive pension plans. Dan will show you how to convert business wealth into personal wealth in a professional manner.
Don't let the CRA take more money than they deserve. Don't let your retirement dreams fade away. Contact Dan Lomas today and let him guide you on your path to financial success.
Visit Dan Lomas at lomasfinancial.ca or call him direct at 902-209-0855. That's 902-209-0855.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome back to the Afternoon Pint. I'm
Back.
Mike Tobin.
I'm Matt Connor.
And who do we have today?
I'm the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Yes.
Returning.
Yes.
Returning.
Am I your first return?
Yes, our
Yes.
very
I am?
first.
Yes.
Well, I'm honored.
That's
I'm
pretty
honored.
cool. Yeah,
I know.
yeah. So, I mean, we've actually just kind of started to think, we can invite guests back, right? Like we said we were going to do. And
Is there a rule against it?
then
No,
I was chatting or I saw something. I think I sent it to you one day on LinkedIn, and then that just sparked the conversation. So thank you so much for coming back on our
Yeah.
show.
No, it's great. And
Yeah.
and of course, we booked a while back, and we're into June now. Things are a little bit more relaxed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am traveling a lot these days, but
It seems that
I'm
way.
You just got
down-
back from Berlin?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I was in Berlin for 2 days.
Right.
Oh, wow. It's not long enough.
And then Montreal, and then this week, actually on Thursday, my 2 keynotes, my 2 next keynotes are in Halifax.
Oh,
at the
cool.
Nova Center.
So you get to stay
Nice.
home.
No traveling.
Oh,
stay
that's
with
nice.
the family.
Hang with the family.
Love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And in Berlin, it was a pretty interesting. I mean, I was just listening to your podcast, so I got a little bit of intel here. You guys can listen to his show if you haven't already. It's a good show by the Food Professor. But a little bit out of that show, you were in Berlin because of what was the reason now? Gosh, the food scandal. Let's just jump horse meat in the lasagna.
Yeah, the Tesco.
Hold on.
The Tesco horse meat scandal back in 2013. Of course. So when you're in Europe,
Yes.
that scandal matters a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, the keynote was about traceability, food fraud.
Food fraud, yeah, is what the keynote was about.
Yeah.
Like, I guess if you're frauding, that's one thing. But I mean, I've had horse. You're from Quebec. You buy horse meat at the grocery store.
no.
but here's the
this
thing.
is over
Yeah.
the
It's
overseas.
delicious.
Tesco is the Loblaw of the UK.
Yeah, okay.
And they were selling beef lasagna.
Oh,
but
it
the
was horse
beef
meat?
was in fact horse meat. It wasn't labeled. But in the UK, you have to understand when you're eating horse, it's like you're eating your dog here.
Oh,
It's
okay.
Crazy.
Horses are pets.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of pets.
You don't want to be
sometimes,
lied
so-
to. Though.
No,
that-
I
that- and that-
totally
that
agree.
was the
But
whole
essentially,
totally agree.
food
Yeah,
fraud
lied
is,
to.
is about mislabeling. It's about
Right.
selling something that it's not.
No, I agree with that.
So that's the problem. And we think, well, that's why the German government invited me over we do think that because of food inflation, because of higher prices, we're expecting the number of food fraud cases to increase.
Yeah, well, they're doing things now with olive oil. They're trying to combine it with other stuff. I think
Yeah.
Costco
Be careful
has a
with
product
olive
out.
oil, And if you're a big fan of olive oil, go independent. There are some great places in Halifax. You can get pure olive oil. You'll pay for it, but at least you'll know that you're paying for olive oil, not adulterated olive oil.
That's like I used to go to Touch of Gold all the time.
That's the one.
They're good.
I didn't want to. But it's your
You know what?
podcast.
We
We
can
can
say
drop
it.
brands.
Yeah.
They can send us a
So
check.
touch of oil does there's nothing wrong with that
Touch of
stuff?
Gold.
Touch of Gold?
Yeah.
Okay. They're in the Bedford Place Mall, right?
They used to be. They're not anymore.
Where are they now?
They're downtown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So my advice to you: go into Touch of Gold.
Yeah.
Oh.
Have a sample.
Oh, no, we've
ne-
had it at the house
yeah,
before. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're never going to go back to the
Yeah.
brands sold in grocery stores for sure. Yeah.
It's
just different.
and their balsamic vinegars are
Make sure we
fantastic.
take Touch
yeah.
of Gold in this episode
We
now
will.
that we've said it. Yeah.
We sure will.
See if they want
Yeah.
to sponsor the next
They
episode.
can
or
share
something.
it or sponsor
That's
it.
right.
Or at least send us some olive oil.
Yeah.
Listen,
I'll
our
take that
podcast
too.
is sponsored now.
Oh,
just so
yeah,
you
I
know.
saw that.
Oh, okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I heard
Sponsored
that.
now
Yeah.
because we weren't dropping names, but actually we said no to a lot of sponsors because we didn't want to be compromised.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
that's
yeah, I
something
guess
we're
that.
Cattle is a data company, safe.
Okay, yeah.
Banks are safe.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But a grocer,
It's kind of like us with
a
it.
food company.
But that's like
We didn't
us
want to
with
be branded
breweries.
by a beer. We
Yeah,
wanted to be
that-
beer friendly to all microbreweries, right?
Exactly.
So we wanted everybody to get along.
Yeah.
And
There's probably an association that would be.
There
yeah,
is.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Craft Brewers is
Craft
Nova-
Brewers Association Nova
Nova
Scotia,
Scotia, yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
also Craft Brewers Association of Canada.
Right.
I mean, if anyone of them want to sponsor,
Yeah.
reach out.
There
We
you
talked
go.
to those dudes, yeah. And another thing we're doing right now, which is pretty fun, is we're doing craft brewers, talking to craft brewers or beer influencers all across Canada in different provinces.
We're drinking across the country.
So we're doing most of it on Zoom, but we had Newfoundland, we've done Nova Scotia, we got PEI lined up.
Yep.
Did you know in the U.S. there's the beer professor?
Oh, is there?
We talked about this last time. How
told
I
you.
wanted to be the
beer
beer professor.
So
There you
I was
go.
actually on Todd Vienot, and one day the guest before me was the beer professor out of the U.S.
Oh, there you go.
And so maybe I know you can't really travel, but it'd be a great guest.
Oh,
for
yeah.
you
We should-
guys.
we could probably
Get him on there, but
Yeah.
I wanted that title.
Can you do
Yeah.
like a virtual?
You could
Oh,
just
yeah,
be
we-
the,
we- that's what we
you
are. We're
could
doing
be
a
the
couple.
Canadian version.
I'll give you the Canadian version. I was waiting for him to hook me up with Dalhousie to give me a job.
Oh. You might be waiting a while.
Yeah, I think I'll be waiting a while.
Yeah, they didn't get that memo yet.
Yeah,
Sorry.
fair enough. So but you know, speaking of which, when you said about the food fraud or whatever, but those, you know, maybe people won't like this, but those are things that we can do to help like lower food costs. I honestly think that we should just embrace eating seal meat at this point.
Okay,
I don't know.
just chill out for a
I'm
second.
just saying
there.
that. I'm just gonna say it there.
With transparency.
With transparency,
yes,
of
right?
course,
you
of
know,
course.
like if people choose that they want a pork
Yeah, of
beef
course.
hybrid product, they can have it.
But that's the thing, though.
As long as you know.
You don't even need hybrid. Like, I ate a seal burger over in the Ile de Madeleine.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's an amazing burger.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay, cool.
Why are we not utilizing our oceans as much as we
But
could?
it's what's essential to your point
Yeah.
is you want to
Yes,
make sure that
your
labels-
choice, right?
Of course.
Like,
consumers should know what they're eating.
I don't want to eat yours. And I don't really want to eat seal. I mean, maybe I
You don't
like
know
it.
you do.
I don't think I do.
So
Horse meat is really good.
It's good.
Oh, is it?
It's amazing.
I haven't had either.
My wife was anemic when she gave birth to our first child.
Okay.
And so the trick is to feed her iron.
Right.
Yeah.
Horse meat is filled with iron. It
Okay.
was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
great.
So I have a little story. I did a little food fraud myself that involved horse meat.
Okay.
I was in Quebec with my wife.
We're recording.
I know. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I tell everyone this story. So we bought we were gonna have a fondue when we got back. So we were gonna bring it back and have like a like in Quebec style like fondue chinois, right?
Right.
And
Oh.
so we
I'm
went.
seeing you coming. Oh, you didn't.
So we went and we bought a bunch of cool different, like we bought the chicken, the beef, and whatever. But I also bought horse and kangaroo and
Alligator,
camel.
maybe?
No, it might have
No?
been camel, I think. and all shaved up nice and for the fondue chinois.
Yeah.
Laid the spread out for my family, my sister, my parents, all that stuff.
You can't tell the difference when you
can't when it's all spread out there.
Yeah.
No, and they're sitting there eating. I'm like, yeah, I got a bunch of meats here. Just have at it or whatever. And I waited about 15 minutes in when everyone tried a little bit of everything, and I said, so, and you guys want to know what we got going on here? And they were like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I said, yeah, this is this, and named it off, and I said, this one's the horse. And my sister just looked at me and said, well, I guess I like horse.
Have you seen that movie that came out last year, The Menu? It was like a horror
The
movie.
Menu, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
when
a
they find out what they're eating along
dark
the
drama,
way.
yeah.
Oh, I like this.
You should watch it.
I will, yeah.
There you go.
It's
I won't
weird.
spoil it for you. It's weird. It's
It's
okay.
a bit weird.
It's fun
Yeah.
to watch. Yeah.
It's not my favorite food movie.
no,
what
I
is
see.
your favorite food movie?
You know what, man? I recently watched Chef.
Oh, yeah.
It was a good one.
I really
John,
loved
with
it.
John Favreau?
Yeah, I don't know. That really got. I was really emotionally invested in that movie. I don't know why, but I loved it. As soon as he started going, as soon as it was a little slow starting. As soon as it started going, it was a great show.
John Favreau is like a passionate cooking guy.
Yeah.
Like, he had a little
yeah.
reality show where he was cooking with celebrities
Yeah.
and
Right.
things like that.
Chef
so.
is up there for sure. The Big Night, I would suggest to watch The
Okay,
Big Night. That's
okay.
early 1990s.
Okay, I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, it's probably, John Krause, the film critic on
Yeah.
CTV.
Vaguely. I
Yeah,
know
so
the
I've
name.
had chats with him, and he's a movie critic.
Right.
Yeah.
So you watch his movie for a living.
Yeah.
His number one choice for a food movie is The Big Night.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
That's a thing I've never thought about. Like, I could tell you my favorite football movie and favorite like all those other things, but
You don't have a food movie? No?
What's your favorite beer movie?
favorite beer movie?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's tough.
There's not really a lot of.
There's not a lot of
is
beer
there?
movies. I mean, like
Beer
there's Beer
Fest.
Fest.
So what's
which
the
is fun.
movie
Beer
with
Fest is
Bob
okay.
and Doug McKenzie there?
Pardon?
Oh,
Strange Brew.
That's it.
That's a good one. Burnside Brewing. Thank you so much for the suggestion.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
we should
awesome.
say that too. Yeah, we're here.
We are at Burnside Brewing. We always say where we're at. We just got right into it today. I'm so sorry. So I am drinking the Killick,
Yeah,
which I may or may not have had last time, but it is fantastic.
the Killick is good. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I go ahead there.
Actually, I can't remember.
Oh, you're having Seaglass, the IPA.
I'm not-
Seaglass is
so-
terrific. That's
Yeah.
one of my
And
favorite
I don't know
IPAs.
what's
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
My name's Amara.
Amara?
yeah.
Amara saved my day by changing the keg.
Yeah, it was-
So
There you
It came out all head,
Yeah.
and then he was
That's
like,
right.
"Oh, let's change it up." And I'm having the Athena, which is a guave IPA.
Seaglass is probably one of the best names for an IPA. I think it's one of the best
this is
named
pretty
IPAs
good.
we have. Yeah.
It's good.
This
It's
is pretty good.
It's really
good name and it's
Yeah.
good style. It's a
Yeah.
little hazy, kind of that New England style. It's
Yeah.
really good. It's
yeah,
good.
it's smooth and no, it's great.
Yeah, lots of great beers here. And I think we talked about Toller a lot last time.
Yeah, and I think we talked about the Czech Pilsner because I raved about how that good that
Yeah,
was too.
so a lot of great beers here.
So I assume
and
that
Sheldon's
the Toller-
son, if you listen to the last episode,
that's
sorry
right.
to interrupt. If you listen to the last episode, Sheldon's son is the head brewmaster here.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So listen to Sheldon's episode if you want to get a little insight of,
And then drink his son's
of
beer.
his beer making experience because we explored it in that episode. So
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great
So-
job to have.
That
yeah.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
it's cool job. Cool to start out young with it, right? He started as a kid, like he was like 16 and wanted to make beer.
Yeah, that's right. That's
I
what he
think
told
that's-
us.
I think that's pretty
16
fun.
when-
Well,
pretty
in
fascinating.
Germany, you can drink beer at 16,
Yes,
but not
yes.
here,
Right.
unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah, that needs to change.
Yeah.
We need to vote you in as premier and change the legal age to at least 16.
Yeah.
Or
There you go.
17 or 18.
And then
Yeah,
do the
16.
dollar beer thing like Buddy Ford did there. What's his Buddy Ford? Which Ford was it? Sorry,
It was Doug Ford.
Doug Ford. Yeah,
He's still there. I think he just won again. Actually.
did he?
I think so. I think
He
they just
seems
had
to
an
be
election.
well up there.
Yeah, it's a mix, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, he seems to be
Dollar
well-
beer
well-
is
well
probably never
respected.
going to happen again.
No.
In Ontario, it's mixed right now, I would
Yeah,
say. Yeah,
and
it's
he just
mixed.
got the beers into the convenience
He's
stores.
democratized beer distribution
Yes.
in
Right.
Ontario. So they
talked
basically
about this
decided
last
to start treating Ontarians like adults.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden, it's about time. I actually lived in Ontario for 8 years before coming to Halifax, and the beer store system.
Yeah, you were talking about it.
We talked about this the last podcast. What happened?
Talk about
yeah.
like microbreweries are absolutely undermined by the beer store.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Like
sucks.
a monopoly owned
Yeah.
by foreign companies.
Right.
It was the most ridiculous model ever. So I'm happy that they're getting rid of the model. The controversy, of course, it's costing Ontario
it's like
taxpayer is almost $1 billion.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It's going to cost
$1
$1 billion to
billion
dismantle
to get
it.
booze in a convenience store. It just doesn't seem
It's
right.
so foolish.
And grocery stores.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
Yeah.
that seems
It's
wrong.
foolish.
And then like how
Well, they were stuck with this
No,
contract.
exactly. Yeah,
So-
yeah.
It's so strange to me that they don't just really try to push the microbrewery industry into every province.
Here's the thing, though, is we can do that. We can do it here
Yeah.
better than they can in Ontario because, as Sylvain was saying, that there's foreign investment.
Right.
Here, we own the NSLC. So we don't have to buy out any contracts or anything. We could literally just flick the switch anytime we
But
want.
now the beer store is going to be part of the recycling system that they have, but they will actually allow beer to be sold everywhere, essentially, just
Right.
like Quebec. So we're now behind in Nova Scotia. I
Very.
personally think that beer should be available in many other places beyond the.
What's that way in
NSLC?
Newfoundland? It's that way
Newfoundland, yeah.
in
Alberta
Quebec,
has-
Alberta.
Yep.
Alberta's is private. The retail
It's
part
private,
of beer
yeah.
sales is privatized.
Yeah.
Quebec is as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other provinces, in some cases like BC, it's hybrid.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. But I think we're ready in Nova Scotia to really see distribution become privatized for beer.
I'd love to see an afternoon pint beer store.
There you go.
That's what I'd like to
That's
see.
I'd vote
that's a
for
great
that.
idea. I'd vote for that too.
Yeah, because then we don't have to make any of the beer. We'll just sell everybody's beer,
Exactly.
and we can love
It's like we
everybody.
don't drink enough beer now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I guess let's roll into some of the things because you. It's been
yes,
6
okay,
months.
sure.
It's been 6 months since we've had you here,
Yeah.
and you've been up to a lot of things. You've been traveling, obviously.
Spain in a couple weeks. Is that right?
In a couple, yes,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right. My
yeah.
goodness, are you
I'm
stalking
checking
me?
your itinerary and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're virtually
Oh
stalking.
yeah,
me.
yeah.
So it's but I saw like one of the things that kind of stuck out. I mean, I know you said you bounce around, but you said you were recently in Montreal.
Yep.
And you were visiting, and we can get into some of the other stuff with the grocery store stuff, but you specifically talked about like Metro. Anyone who doesn't know Metro, it's a chain of groceries
Right.
that exists there. And you
Number 3 in the country. Yep.
Yeah, and you were commenting about what they were doing. It was really impressive. So I was really interested in what you found impressive about what they're doing and what we should be copying here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, first of all, Metro, like other grocers, don't really like some of the things I say in the media. And so Eric Laflèche, the CEO of Metro, absolutely despises me because of some of the comments I made about corporate bonuses, which I
Right.
thought were inappropriate.
And you pointed out that Metro is one of the more expensive of the three.
Yes.
Yes. I heard you say
It
that.
is the most profitable of chains. In fact, if you really want to organize a boycott that makes sense, I'd boycott Metro, really, because that's the one.
Yeah.
If you,
I mean, it doesn't really pertain to Nova Scotians, but it pertains to the majority
Central
of
Canada.
Central
Yeah,
Canada.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a well managed company, but what happened a few months ago is I get an invite from Metro to visit their new distribution center in Terrebonne in Montreal. So and as soon as the company invites me, I go, and so I went. And I was impressed. And so basically Metro and Sobeys is kind of doing that. And Loblaws is about to open up a 1.2 million square foot distribution center in Newmarket, Toronto. It's all about the middle mile. So we all know who is the master of the last mile, Amazon, right?
Sure, yeah.
We see trucks everywhere. And the last mile is the most expensive to cover. So we're going to be, everyone's behind Amazon.
Right.
But the middle mile allows grocers and any company really to better manage costs.
Right.
And to support, so the middle mile is about distribution to stores, to retail, not retail to consumer, but it's from distribution to stores. And so this center supports 700 stores in Quebec, and they can actually fulfill, let's say you're a store manager in Sept-Îles, Quebec, okay?
That's pretty
You fill
far
out an
up there.
order, you send it to Montreal. Within hours, they got your truck ready to go
Cool.
to Sept-Îles.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not a far trek.
And
right?
not one human touches anything.
No way.
Oh yeah, it's really impressive. I was really impressed. Yeah, I couldn't take pictures, obviously, indoors, but I was really impressed with the whole setup.
I worked in a food warehouse many years ago for a short period of time. and the anarchy in those places were unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason your berries are probably pretty light in the case, I figured that one out.
But anyways, I thought, and this is
Robots
really
can't do that.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
absolutely,
Yeah.
exactly. And so I was really impressed with the AI used because it's not just about fulfilling orders; it's about fulfilling the next order in advance.
Right.
So let's say in Sept-Îles, they're expecting 2 weeks of rain. They're not going to sell beef. They're not going to sell
Right.
stuff for the barbecue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Right.
they're expecting a frost or something. And so with AI, you can detect how that frost will impact food demand, because it will. How it impacts beer sales.
Right.
Crazy.
So it's
Yeah.
all about predictability. And we went through numbers and the models that they use. I was really generally impressed by all the work, and it was a 4-year project to build this center. It was really well done.
I wonder how much, though. I mean, it's such a tough thing right now with the grocery stores and consumers. It's like, will those savings go back to the client,
Probably not.
to the consumer? Sorry.
The I'll be pretty honest with you. I mean, the
Yeah.
whole idea of running a business, a publicly traded business, is to
Make profit.
Is to make a profit
Year over year,
And-
yeah. We
and-
work for a traded business, right? Like we understand that, yeah.
But in the food business, which is a high volume, low margin environment, the whole focus is about controlling margins.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Because it's competitive. People think, oh, it's not. We need more competition. If you sell bananas or beef or chicken at a higher price, you're not going to be selling anything.
Right.
So you gotta make sure you protect your margins as much as possible. And so the middle mile, investing in a middle mile, $500 million in the middle mile is about protecting margins, which really gets me to think about the Loblaw so-called boycott.
This is the,
Yeah, but
there's
before we protect the middle mile, so just before we get into the boycott stuff.
No, I didn't
and
want to
will.
go there. I
What?
actually have somewhere else to go
Oh,
first.
sorry. But the middle mile, will that also protect, one of the biggest frustrations I have in food stores now is just bringing something home and it not being such poor quality, I have to almost immediately throw it out. And, maybe not seeing that in the store when I looked and inspected
Well,
the produce.
you're in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
We're in the Atlantic here.
Yeah, it's
the most
It's
pathetic-
not getting bad; it's getting worse. It really is.
We get leftovers from Quebec and Ontario.
I mean, my mom, she went to a higher end. I don't really want to call it the stores, but gooseberries, which aren't easy to find. That's a Newfoundland thing,
yeah.
right? Gooseberries.
Yeah.
And she gets them once a
I know
year.
gooseberries.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. She brought home a thing, and then gooseberries are quite expensive to get here these days,
Yeah.
right? You get about 14 gooseberries in a shell. One good, right? She knows. My mom is like the cook, right? Like she knows her produce, she knows her food, she knows very well. But it's very used to this now that we just get home, we just throw something in the trash. Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that wasn't any good.
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep up.
we truck. I mean, we work with the Department of Agriculture in the province, and we think that really we need to ramp up our food systems by investing in processing mostly.
Yeah.
We truck in basically 95% of everything we eat in this province.
And what
affects
Andrea signed us
quality.
up for this year, my partner, she got us on the food box. What's it called? The
Oh, yeah,
farmers
yeah.
thing. So we
How's
paid-
that going?
So far, so good. It just started this week.
Hold on, though. Explain what you're saying, because some people might think you're talking about good food or
No,
things
no,
like that.
no.
Yeah.
A farmer's box is all local,
Yeah.
right? So I think we paid $500 up front, and she goes down every Wednesday, and she can pick up like 6 or 7 different items. We got asparagus and lettuce, apples, a couple other things I can't remember, but it's all local,
Yeah.
man. And it's so good. And
Yeah.
you notice such a quality. I made a salad last night with some mixed greens, and I'm like, wow, this salad is amazing. I don't get excited about salad very often, right?
Yeah.
But such a different
90%
quality.
of our food budget as a family goes to independence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
So, I mean, no disrespect towards Sobeys or Loblaws, but
Right.
we just don't spend money there.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like independence. There are some great independent retailers.
And it's
co-ops.
not costing a lot more money
No.
because I'm the cranky budget guy of the house that I'm always like, is that going to be too expensive? Or
But
can we do that
you're not
cheaper?
throwing away half your box either.
But you're
Right.
not. And when
Yes.
you really do the math and you think about going to the grocery store versus having this and learning to cook with what you can kind of basically get locally, cheapers. right?
That's great.
It's really cool.
And this
So-
is the one thing I've always said this boycott was a missed opportunity to really get consumers to understand the problems, because there are problems, and Loblaw, I think, is part of the problem.
Yeah.
Well,
It's just they're
yeah.
just aiming at the wrong problem. But I if I would have
I always thought the boycott was to kind of move the target. Like, it was like to go after Loblaws so long, and then to switch it and go after.
it was political.
Yeah.
It was an easy target, political. People knew Galen Weston. They
Right.
knew
Yeah.
the number one. And frankly, when you look at the data, prices actually have gone up elsewhere more than at Loblaw. I mean,
Well,
so
yeah.
what I would have done if I would have organized a boycott that actually made sense was to ask Canadians to boycott all big stores, big box stores, all of them, and focus and get your money towards independence, like you're doing with your box, for
Yeah.
example. That's
Cool.
to me.
Yeah.
To me, would have sent a clear message saying this oligopoly is not working for Canadians, and there are issues with
It's not
this.
working for Atlantic Canadians.
No.
I mean, my gosh,
No.
right? Like,
So that kind of leads me into one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and that's the allegations of collusion and like this proposed code of conduct.
Yep.
Like,
Did we talk about it last time?
no, we didn't actually. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's been. I mean, I've been working on this issue for a decade. I mean, it's just.
Wow.
I
are
think
we
it's
talking like the bread fixing,
So, okay,
bread face fixing?
we
Is
talk-
there like
no,
all that
no,
kind
well,
of stuff,
not
or is that
quite.
okay?
No,
but
this
it's kind
is-
of related.
Sorry,
This
go
is going
ahead.
to court.
Yeah.
Like, or I guess they're trying to put it into court about there's allegations of collusion between the major grocers, basically price fixing and being like, you only charge $2 for this, and I'll only charge $2 for this, and you only charge $2 for this, and that way everything just stays $2. When really, if they were competing against each other, someone could charge $1.50, and then someone else have to charge $1.49, and blah 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 blah.
People are angry
Yes.
because they feel unprotected.
yeah.
And this bread price fixing scandal, this investigation with the Competition Bureau, with whom we actually have worked with, submitted a report on the bread cartel, quote unquote, 5 years ago. So the investigation has been going on for 9 years.
Wow.
We still haven't seen any reports.
Crazy.
Oh no, it's great. So when people are angry, I get it. I mean, seriously, the Competition Bureau is just not doing its job. So last week when they came out and said, we're going to watch Sobeys and Loblaw and how they actually set up price control or property controls, so let's say that Sobeys or Loblaw are main tenants of a strip mall. They just make sure that nobody else sells food.
Right.
Okay. Or they'll mouthball a store somewhere in rural Nova Scotia, but they're just not building anything else. They just leave that land vacant just to make sure that the other guys don't build there, to control space, to control
Crazy.
geography.
Okay.
So I think most Canadians were aware of some of these things that were going on. Like if you have a Dollarama close to, say, a Sobeys,
Yeah.
pretty darn sure that Dollarama is not going to sell bread.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Right. Or not have free.
But here's the
Yeah,
question. I think today, what I saw from the Competition Bureau is this acceptable now? Is this morally and ethically acceptable now? And my guess is that the answer is very, very different than say 10 years ago.
There is a fear, though, of losing your grocery store in your community. So, I mean, say you boycott Loblaws. I mean, I just say there's places that Loblaws is the only option. Like,
Right.
what happens there when the big grocery stores? So, say you were successful. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think this boycott was successful, but it seems to be debatable, right?
Yeah, I'd like to know and see how the numbers ran.
Some
in the
people
end.
say it hasn't been, and some people say it has
here's
been.
how do you define success?
Successful for awareness, maybe, but it's
That's a good question. Honestly.
it's tough.
Because so
It's a tough answer.
here's the answer,
Yeah.
and this is why I thought that the Loblaw boycott was actually dangerous, because you aim at Loblaw, okay. As I said earlier with the middle mile discussion we had, for grocers the idea is to protect margins.
Right.
What do you think is going to happen if Loblaw's top line is impacted?
Lay off
Sales.
people. Lay off people.
Laying off people.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're going to be going after suppliers. They're going to be squeezing suppliers.
Yeah.
Processors. Many of them are actually right here in this province. Farmers.
Yeah.
Okay. They're going to be squeezed. Loblaw is going to hurt. And by the way, if you look at Loblaw's share price compared to
haven't, no.
May 1st.
Oh.
If you look at George Weston's share price, so I made some calculations. Okay, since May 1st, Galen Weston is $970 million richer.
Woo.
Because why?
Yeah.
Because Loblaw knows how to protect margins.
Yeah.
So that's why when I saw this boycott happening, I thought these people have no idea how this company is ruthless, is powerful, and is a bully. They're going to bully their way out of a boycott. Everyone's going to pay for that boycott except Loblaw.
Right.
Right. What if they sustained it? I mean, could you think a monster company like that if they with a sustainable, like a boycott that lasted a year? I mean, it would.
Well, so
it's hard to say that it would happen.
so they
Yeah.
they're. I mean, again, going back to the financial data. I mean, they make most of their money selling drugs. They make most of their money selling cosmetics. Did you guys know that Loblaw is the only company in the world allowed to sell Chanel No. 5 in a pharmacy, Shoppers Drug Mart?
Weird.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
How do you get a deal like that?
Money.
And how much money do you think they make every time they
Right.
sell Chanel No. 5?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They make a lot of money. And I'm going with food sales. They're not making any money. They're making
Yeah.
money selling drugs and cosmetics and T-shirts. for
Selling
Joe
batteries
Fresh.
to podcasters who are short on time and have to spend $9.99 for a 4-pack of double A's.
No, you didn't.
No.
Tobin,
It happened a while.
goes to the dollar store. So that's actually a bit of a question because I mean places like Dollarama and Giant Tiger
Right.
are like you
They're
know,
doing very well.
well. That's the thing though. But I was going to ask you about that is like because they're not a ma and pop.
Did you know that the CEO of Dollarama makes more money than Galen Weston?
No way.
Yes,
Really?
way.
I know they're a Quebec company though.
Yeah, Mr. Rossi,
Yeah.
who's the CEO,
Rossi who also owns Rossi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes more money.
Yeah.
Salaries are public. He makes
Right.
more money than Galen Weston himself.
Doesn't
But
surprise
Galen
me,
Weston
though.
is still the target.
But you know what? That doesn't surprise me because realistically, there's probably $4 Ramas for every Sobeys or every Loblaws. So
Dollarama is an amazing company.
honestly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't own shares of
No.
any
but
company.
the thing is though, is like people are. I imagine people are going to start going to Giant Tiger and Dollarama because prices are cheaper. And I'm going to be honest with you,
I go to Dollarama.
of course,
I do too.
Realistically, no, but I'm
That's
sitting there-
where we only get junk food at Dollarama because of smaller bags. You can't go
But
to
there's
the
that.
Costco
But I'm
bags.
sitting there thinking like,
Yeah,
go to
it's just too much.
go to Dollarama. And
Yeah.
I'm not promoting like necessarily this is the healthiest of food, but if you're someone who likes, every once in a while I get a little hankering for ravioli, Chef Boyardee ravioli.
Yeah.
Like
Why?
that particularly hits you, ravioli, Chef Boyardee.
My grandmother made that for me for lunch
Oh my
growing
gosh.
up when I was.
But peanut butter,
Yeah, that's specific, bro.
No, seriously. But I get a craving
Yeah.
for it every once in a while. And no joke, last time I bought a big old can, of it,
Yeah.
right? But you can go there and you can get a regular can at Dollarama for like $1.75, or you can go to Sobeys and pay $2 more for it, or like
Yeah.
I like a host of $3, like $2.99 for a can.
yeah,
What's
the same product.
It is. It's yeah.
The
It's,
same
it's
product.
not like it's produce. It's not
Yeah.
meat.
You're wondering why.
Exactly.
It's simple. So Dollarama's procurement strategy is very different than at Sobeys and Loblaw. So Loblaw and Sobeys will carry 20,000 SKUs,
right.
products, like 20,000 products, okay? Dollarama doesn't work that way, okay? They look at probably about 5,000 to 7,000 SKUs. And when they go to Kraft Heinz or to Chef Boyardee or whatever, they say, you know what? We have 1,600 stores. You're going to have the monopoly. We have a private label, but not for this category.
Right.
You're going to have the monopoly on our shelves. So they actually keep down prices as much as possible. They don't have listing fees either. And this is the one part that I thought was missed with the boycott. The boycott folks should have actually educated Canadians in terms of listing fees. Let's say you guys have, you can't sell beer in most grocery stores in Canada, but let's say you have jam.
Okay.
Okay, the Matt and Mike jam, the M&M jam.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
the M&M jam.
We'll do that.
You go to Loblaw, I want to sell my jam to you, Mr. Loblaw.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to ask you $100,000
Oh,
to allow you to sell jam to them. That's how it works.
do we have to pay them to sell
Yes,
jam?
you have to pay your customer to well, actually, breweries would know this. 'Cause-
Breweries definitely know this.
Oh yeah, because they are listing fees on the
They
NSLC.
have to pay the NSLC.
Yeah, exactly. And so after 1 year, they'll carry your M&M jam for a year, and then people like your jam. They're
Right.
buying your jam.
Right.
Okay. So the next year you come back and say, oh, they like our jam. So we're going to carry your products in 200 stores now, but we're going to charge you $500,000.
Wow.
So what are you going to do? Right now, you have no choice. Okay. You're either going to say, yes, I'm going to pay you $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you going to do with your jam? You're going to increase the price.
Of course, yeah.
That's the problem. So Loblaw bullies suppliers. Suppliers are forced to raise prices. And then who gets hit by higher prices? Consumers. At Dollarama, you don't have that game.
So that's probably why. That's a really good explanation as why people aren't calling for the head of the CEO of Dollarama, because people don't feel like they're getting ripped off.
That's right. So
you can make as much money you want.
whenever people are advocating for the code of conduct, which I've been advocating for a decade, that's exactly what would be stopped. Because the code of conduct would give M&M Jam an opportunity to dispute Loblaw's requests for $500,000. And so you actually have a mediator to
So is
negotiate.
this all products in your grocery aisles basically have to
Oh yeah.
do this?
So
it all
PepsiCo,
products? Yeah, I was gonna say
Pepsi
Pepsi,
pays $5 million to Loblaw to have Loblaw carry Lay's chips alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's the exclusive rights kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
So Costco is a bit different. So Costco makes its money with membership.
Right.
So for Costco is the simplest of models. 4,000 SKUs, 15%. So when you walk into a Costco and you see a peanut butter jar, a kilo at, I don't know, $9.
Right.
15% goes back to Costco,
Right.
but they don't make their money selling you because they have payroll. They have,
Yeah.
I mean, and people
I've
are
seen
well
local
paid.
products in Costco as recently as Sunday, like the Cove soda, which is made here in Nova
Yeah.
Scotia. That was in
Cove kombucha,
they had the 2 4s of the new
That's
Cove
right.
soda. So those guys, they get a fair shot in there, and they don't
So
have
they
to
get
pay.
so Costco gets 15%,
Yep.
and so the rest goes to the company.
That's it.
The company finances the inventory at Costco, by the way. Costco is a bank, basically. So it's a box
Yep.
Yeah.
filled with stuff financed by other companies. And they make
Good way
15%,
to look at it. Yeah.
which
yeah.
is enough to pay to cover payroll and other expenses that they have, which is pretty minimal. But if you talk to people at Costco, they're pretty well paid. I mean, they get
their
good money.
staff is paid well.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I
They
hear,
can make a
comparatively.
career out
Yeah.
of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they make their money allowing you to go in. So the listing fees is up front. You are charged $60 to get a membership card.
Right.
Okay. To allow you in. The listing fee is there. It's up front and consumers pay for that.
The consumer's a listing fee.
Loblaw charges suppliers
Right.
to get that membership
it
card
makes a lot
fee.
of sense though, because when you think about it, like there's $60, and then there's also the 120 membership or whatever, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like they charge you the $60. We'll just stick with the $60, and I'm just sitting there thinking, like, if you have 1 million people, which is a low number in North America for Costco, that means that's $60 million that they're making upfront,
Right.
Yeah.
and there's a hell of a lot more. There's
Well,
probably-
Costco North America made $4.5 billion.
Well, I was going to say there's probably there's 380 million people in the U.S. I guarantee you half of them have a Costco membership, and then you think of Canada where there's probably another 20 million.
Yeah.
So when you're putting all that together, like you're getting close to
There's about
200
There's about 5 million members of Costco in Canada right now.
Is that what it is? Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
So it's $300 million, and my guess is that Costco Canada makes about $300 million. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of coin up front.
Yeah.
And I do understand, like I've read recently with Costco, like there are some products that they do make money on just because they get certain whatevers, right? Certain benefits from them, certain special pricing. But I've also heard that there's actually products they actually lose heavily money on.
Oh, loss leaders they have.
Yeah, exactly.
What they've done
Just to get you in the store, kind of
Right.
thing.
their Kirkland strategy has been really impressive.
Yeah.
Their private label.
Oh,
yeah.
Like, kind of, I learned a lot of this, like, you know, having a kid is like, you have their diapers and like their formula, their baby formula is made by Similac, which is like the premium of baby formula.
Yeah.
And they sell it at Kirkland, and no joke, it's half the price.
Right.
Half the price.
Costco 15
yeah.
years ago was the worst food retailer in the world. It was just bad.
Oh, really?
But now they're processing on site. When you go to Costco, you see these people working, and the quality is very good. The meat is very good
yeah.
as well.
Steaks.
Yeah. And
Steaks are good.
they
Steaks
have
went up quite a
they
bit.
have local stuff.
Yes,
they're
they
very
do.
localized.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I was actually flown into Ottawa, and I met all of the 109 managers of all the Costco stores in Canada.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and you know, I kind of laughed because I'm in Dartmouth, and
Yeah.
I went to the Dartmouth Costco, and one day I saw, like, I was looking around for bread, and then I turned around there with kayaks.
Yeah.
So bread, kayaks. You don't
Yeah.
have that experience at Loblaws.
No.
Yeah, and that's a big part of the Costco strategy.
But it's all
too.
about 15%.
You always end up
Yeah.
coming home with something a little extra that you
So
didn't plan on.
15% on bread, 50% on kayaks. I get it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, optimizing the space. Yeah.
The I was reading recently, you were talking about how Canadians are spending less on groceries.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, prices are still on the rise. I was kind of wondering, like,
They're actually dropping.
well, that's exactly where I was going to go. Is like, yeah, what's on the rise and what's dropping now?
Steak's
I've,
going
I've
up.
heard I've heard things are going down now.
Steak was up Sunday. My
Steak
dear
was up.
goodness.
Yeah, I know.
Well, beef,
Beef, yeah.
exception.
Yeah,
Olive
for sure.
oil, exception.
Exception,
yeah.
Dairy products, exception.
Right.
Everything else, it's actually
it's going
going.
down.
Yeah. And actually, one of my op-eds, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I got a little bit upset because the Canadian press, many reporters were saying, "Oh my God, prices are still rising, food inflation is still up," and I'm going, Jesus, look at the data. I mean, prices have been dropping since March. Come on, at least tell Canadians a good story, like
Right.
a positive story about what's going on with food. And we were back in December, when we published Canada's Food Price Report, which was probably a couple of days before we met for the first time. We were expecting the market to turn.
Yeah.
Probably end of August,
Okay.
early
Right.
September. But
So it's ahead of the curve a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
you made that prediction on our show.
You did, yeah.
So people
Did
go
I?
back and
Yes,
listen
you
to that
did.
episode.
Yeah,
oh,
you
there
did.
you go.
You see that he was right.
Yeah.
I was right.
So with that being said, though, because I did read that on you had an article post on LinkedIn talking about, and specifically, I guess here, because where you said we're in east of Canada and we're getting kind of the leftovers. You were talking about how some people are stretching out that best before date, and I mean it's important to clarify. There's a best before date and there's an expiry date, and those are two different things.
That's right.
But you were talking about how it can be dangerous.
Just something that most Canadians can't really understand. So that's great.
Yes, there's a
lot of
huge
people
difference.
Some
Some people think the best before date is like, well, I can't touch it. It immediately becomes poison after that day. It's not. It just means it's not as fresh as it would have been, right?
That's right.
Then there's an expiry date where you probably shouldn't have it after that kind
Yeah.
of thing. But you were saying that it can get dangerous, what people are doing, playing that Russian roulette, I guess, with food is what I saw. Is it simply because of the mixing up of the best before and the expiry, and people are pushing that too much? Is that why?
Well, I mean, essentially, the best before date is a suggestion.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
it's pretty trivial, really, when you
They put best before dates on water. Like, it's foolish.
on honey.
Yeah, honey. It doesn't
know?
ever go bad.
That's right, salt.
Yeah.
So you kind of really want to, depending of who you are. I mean, if you have a compromised immune system or you're not like in the best of shape, I'd be very careful. But if
Right.
you're really in good shape, there's nothing that really would prevent you to eat. I've actually eaten yogurt, I think 3 months past the best before date, and it wasn't open. It wasn't
Okay.
open.
Yeah.
Once it's open, then
That's different. Cultures
Shelf life
develop.
starts to- yeah.
So, I mean, the other day we actually had to catch a bottle that was actually the best before date was 5 years ago.
I'm going to make fun of you a bit. I think that comes with aging, eh? Like you get older and things just stay in the pantry and stay in the fridge for longer.
You know what,
Because
though?
I was bust my mom there for that the other week. I'm like, Mom, the salad dressing is like 6 months old.
Honestly,
What's
though,
going on?
can ketchup actually go bad because it's
Exactly.
so
No.
filled with stuff? right?
It's just
Exactly.
sugar and paste
So-
and
And
vinegar.
vinegar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
So you
things
either
that, yeah.
basically decide to eat it or open up a museum. I don't know.
Right.
You just eat it, and frankly, yeah, we're fine. I mean, yeah. So actually, in a couple of weeks, we're making an announcement with a company.
Cool.
So I was approached by a company, pro bono.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was a great initiative. So it's going to be announced on June 18th.
June 18th.
National, like a new.
That's not too far away.
A new,
Yeah.
a new
Yeah.
campaign encouraging Canadians to. I'm not going to use a slogan, but to reassess the meaning of best before dates.
Oh, okay.
There
There
you
you
go.
go. There's the intrigue.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, we could put out June 18th. We could put the episode out to coincide with it if you want.
We could do that.
Why not? Yeah, yeah.
There you
Because
go.
we were
That's
talking about.
'cause you
we were
could just
talking
tell
about
us right now,
pumping
and
this
then
one
we'll
ahead,
just let it
so,
go
yeah,
then.
Yeah.
So speaking of things that are coming up, you were also and we talked about a little before this about the Bank of Canada. I find it interesting because obviously if food costs are going down, I'm assuming that, I mean, we've seen it. We've seen that inflation starting to go down. Not that it's in the negatives, but it's not 7%, 8% anymore. It's down
Yeah.
to where it's almost where it should be. Is that? Do you think a lot of that, like food costs and inflation costs, like, you know, how is the Bank of Canada? How do you think it's going to react, and how do you think it's going to affect food?
Well, so that's I think it's been a very important source of frustration for a lot of people because they've been. I mean, we see it in the data. People are showing up with less money in their pockets at
Right.
the grocery store.
Yeah.
Not because just like food prices have gone up.
Well, rent's going up.
Rent's going up.
Everything's up.
Taxes are
Gas,
going
there
up.
you go.
I mean, everything is going up, and so that's why a lot of people are frustrated with their own financial reality, and so. And I think the Bank of Canada really made a huge mistake a few years ago, suggesting that rates wouldn't go up, and a lot of people committed to variable rates and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah. Right here.
Well,
Same here. Yeah, we both did. Yeah, I just
and
renewed my
so-
mortgage.
and-
Yeah.
no. So, and when you look at the data, millennials in particular were severely hard hit, and that's the largest group we have in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're in their economic prime.
Yeah.
They probably have kids.
Yeah.
They're committed. They probably like have a house, perhaps even a cottage with
Yeah.
another mortgage. I mean, that really hurt a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Well, we were told rates were going to stay low. I
Yeah.
remember that was our prime minister said that. Yeah. I mean,
Well, and
which
you know what,
they
that's
couldn't
another thing,
predict
too.
what was going to happen, of course, but still,
Yeah.
lesson learned, right?
That-
like,
that- and
you
that
know,
And I
makes
think
sense,
the Bank of Canada itself
Yeah.
actually got frustrated, and of course we went after the Bank of Canada ourselves as a
Right.
lab and questioned a lot of the things that they were saying, and they didn't like that. And but I think that with their approach now is much more prudent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they've learned, and so because when you go back a few years ago, the Bank of Canada was really the first bank in the G7 to raise rates. They were actually 2 weeks ahead of the Americans, just so you know. And was it the right decision? Of course, it was the right decision, but the tone got people like yourselves to make the wrong decisions for your family, for yourselves.
Yeah.
But now I think the Bank of Canada is much more careful with tone in particular, and I don't
Seems
think
that way.
Yeah, and I don't think that they will. I don't think they fantasize with the idea of being first ever again. Like
Fair
they're-
enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're going to be careful because, of course, when you understand macroeconomics, everything is intertwined. Everything is connected. So, the Bank of Canada, if the Bank of Canada moves, the Fed will react. Well, vice versa, I guess, because
Right.
we're not like a huge player around the world, but we have to pay attention to what's going on in Europe. We have to pay attention to what's going on in the United States.
Right.
And I just think that we need to make sure that we are well positioned to cope with whatever goes on in Washington and Brussels and so on and so forth.
It's an interesting thing that, it's going to make things make things be very interesting in the next year because, we're going to, pretty much over the next, say 14, 15 months, we're going to have 3 elections in this province.
Yeah.
We have a city one coming up in October. We're going to have a provincial one at a minimum sometime in the next year, like in July is when the next scheduled one. It could be sooner, I guess. And then pretty much by next fall, we'll see a federal one.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see because now we're seeing prices go down in terms of food.
Yep.
And it's funny because, I think that's something they have to walk the line with because, it's not like Justin Trudeau can come out here and say, prices are going down. We've saved the day because that'll sound really tone deaf and people probably dislike him even more.
Mm-hmm. But blaming the Trudeau regime is not necessarily fair either.
No, I don't think inflation's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
If it was a Trudeau
it's a global
problem,
phenomenon.
If Trudeau was the problem, it would be happening only in Canada, right?
Right.
That's not. So I don't believe in blaming. I mean, there's tons to blame him for, but that's not necessarily one of them.
Exactly. I mean, it's the government in power, so obviously,
Yes.
I mean, he needs to take responsibility for what's going on for sure. But it is going to be interesting to see how the Atlantic reacts to federally specifically. Provincially, provincial politics are strange to me because I mean, I've been here only for 8 years.
Yeah.
But I've seen a liberal government and I've seen a very conservative government, and I don't see a whole lot of difference.
No. I mean,
I would
arguably,
actually argue that McNeil in the Liberal was more conservative than
Exactly.
I think the same thing.
As a
I've thought
person
the same thing,
coming in from Ontario, I thought, so Tim Houston is a conservative premier, so we should be seeing conservative sort of policies,
strategies.
but it hasn't been that way at all.
Not at all.
My expectations are kind of mixed with provincial politics in particular. You just go with the flow.
Well, it's the PC thing here, right? That
exactly.
plays
That's
into it
true
a bit. And
Yeah.
That's the difference between federal. We're
yeah.
progressive conservatives in the provincial level, and then there's
They're
big C
like diet.
conservatives.
They're like
And our
diet
region is
conservative.
very much dependent on what goes on in Ottawa. Let's face it. And I do think that Ottawa is going to be an interesting situation for sure for the Atlantic. How the Atlantic will react to whatever is going on here.
Well, we'll see what
'Cause
happens.
it'll be-
It's hard to predict this early on. It could change, but I mean, if the election was tomorrow.
The only thing I can say is we should not ever underestimate Trudeau. That's all I'm going to say.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty fair.
And I enjoy watching debates in Ottawa with Jack Singh and the NDP and with Pierre Poilievre from the Conservative. But given what I know about Ontario and specifically, and Trudeau's walk on water in Ontario, don't forget about that. So I certainly would not underestimate Trudeau.
No, I'm not necessarily underestimating anybody. I do kind of think, I don't know. I think we'll see a tide change, but I mean, anything can happen. I think the biggest feather in the cap, honestly, would be costs coming down.
Yeah.
In the end, if we don't see an election, if we don't see an election for another 15 months, and prices continue to come down, and we're at a point where inflation's at a solid 2%, and it has been for a while. Grocery prices came down because maybe more suppliers opened up and all this other stuff, and there's more competition, and all that stuff happens, and the Bank of Canada has opportunities to bring down interest. I mean, of course, there's going to be people who are going to never forget how they're scorned and they don't like them, right?
But the other thing, of course, that got me thinking, in light of what happened last week in the United States with Trump's conviction,
Right.
Yeah.
I actually think that a Trump presidency could push Canadians to think Trudeau more.
Yeah,
I
really?
think.
I don't disagree with
okay,
that.
that's interesting. I
Yeah,
like
because
that. I like that.
Poilievre is seen as the Trump North more. But if Biden is reelected, I would say that it probably would increase chances
Wow,
for the
that's an
Conservatives.
interesting
I like that.
way to think of that. I never
Yeah.
thought of that. But
That's a bold prediction, and I love bold predictions.
yeah. No, that's interesting.
Because I mean, if you're in Canada and you got Trump there,
Yeah, yeah,
you
I
want
get
a
it, yeah.
Trump
You just kinda
in your
want
own
that little bit of a
backyard,
counter either
sort
way,
of thing.
yeah.
And Canadians tend to think that way a little bit, you know, when,
Okay.
especially with provincial politics versus.
that's a cool way to cool perspective.
I 100% agree with you when it comes to how Canadians think about provincial versus federal. I think Canadians do tend to, it seems that Canadians always tend to vote like almost the opposite of what's in federal versus for the provincial. So, I mean, you know, we've had like Trudeau had just won an election and we voted a PC government in, right? And maybe
Yeah.
that's just circumstantial or whatever.
I think that was
But-
circumstantial.
No, but look,
No,
you have to,
no,
no, you have to
I
think,
do.
No, because you got to look at it here. The Quebec government has essentially their right, right of center group in there. New Brunswick went right in terms of a PC government. I believe PEI did. We did. And like Newfoundland started kicking some of them out. They went right out the west. Like honestly, Trudeau won an election, and then and New Ontario was already blue. Literally, the whole country lit up blue for the most part, provincially, while everyone voted federally red.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it happens.
But
a
that was
lot.
the first term, though.
No, that was just the last.
Yeah, I know.
election.
Yeah. So
But
it
that
took some
happens
time.
often.
But we probably felt. I mean, I think the Maritimes or Nova Scotia felt largely ignored, right? Like, I felt like they weren't getting what they wanted out of their government. And
Well, there
that's
was
what
two things
switched.
that turned the tide here, specifically in Nova Scotia, and that was we had Ian Rankin come out and say, we're doing a vax pass. And,
Right.
and it seemed like everyone was like, nope. And literally,
That pissed people off.
they did, but
Yeah.
if anyone was paying attention,
Right.
Houston was going to do it too. And he did do it.
Yes.
So basically, Ian, say whatever you want about him, but at least he had the friggin' balls to say it.
That's right.
Right? He was the only one to say it. So that's that. Other than that, though, I think there's that, and I think carbon tax coming in
Okay.
was a huge factor for us because we've not had carbon tax.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that is the thing that kind of turned the tides for people and their mentality because we've had a couple by-elections since then. And it's
But Trudeau's
dominantly
breach with the carbon tax just to serve the Atlantic was I thought it was a mistake because really the carbon tax is one of Trudeau's most principled policy when it comes
Seems
to
to be.
environmental stewardship. And when he did that, just to basically get political support in the Atlantic in particular, because he basically exempt the carbon tax on eating oil. And
That's right.
eating oil is only used in this region, basically.
That's right, because everyone else is off oil.
So
for
he
heating
didn't
homes.
say it, but he was basically trying to get some more support from the Atlantic. But when he did that, to me, it was a huge mistake, basically undermining the importance of carbon pricing in Canada. And no, it doesn't matter what you think about carbon pricing. If you believe in a policy and you're starting to send messages to the public saying that this is negotiable as a principal policy, you are done.
No,
and
that's
that really
fair.
didn't help.
It's a fair assessment because it's true.
And I have concerns
Yeah.
about the carbon tax. I mean, I absolutely do have concerns about the carbon tax for sure. I testified before Parliament telling MPs exactly that for
Well-
the food industry. But as a government, I think that was a mistake.
Jane Goodall, who's like considered like the godmother of the the climate change and all that stuff, she actually spoke against it.
Yeah.
Saying that carbon tax wasn't the right solution.
I'm
It was
more of
interesting.
I'm a cap and trade person. I actually do think
I
that
like
if you
the cap and
empower-
trade
If
system.
you empower
Yeah.
businesses to make decisions, it's much better and it's less costly to manage.
It was better for us.
The
for no
CARA, the Revenue Canada, the Canadian Revenue Agency, is employing 5,000 more people than last year. They are up to
Really?
60,000 people now. Now, I'm going to have to ask at some point,
look at the
Ottawa,
payroll.
how many people are there just to basically support the bureaucracy behind the carbon
Well,
tax?
it's much different from CERB, right? I mean, yeah, it's the same thing all over again. So if you're doing all this work to get the money, send the checks out, and do all these transactional
Exactly.
things, and when you look, everything takes energy.
Yeah.
Right? Everything you do takes energy, right? So,
But the CRA is up to 60,000 employees now.
and I can't see it
That's
really.
insane.
Yeah.
It doesn't reduce necessity. I mean, it doesn't fix that I have to drive to
you-
work.
You think? I mean, you have to think as a government. What brings revenue? CRA.
Right.
So you want people. It's like your sales folks, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at government revenue versus the number of people,
Right.
it's just not there. The efficiency is just not there. The government is not making more revenue, and the only way to make more revenue, to me, is not by hiring more CRA people. It's by enabling conditions to grow the economy. And we're not there right now.
Yeah.
Our economy is not doing great compared to the
We've had
US.
some guests on the show, like William Burt. They're doing
Yes.
an amazing thing to reduce CO2
Oh, you'll
emissions.
love that episode.
William Burt.
He's actually taking CO2 out of the air and putting it in the ocean, and it's doing right here in Halifax.
Oh,
He's a
yes.
Dow-
I
he's a
did
Dalhousie
that. That's
alumni.
right, yeah.
He's been on a show,
Yeah.
and he'll come
That's
on this one.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I mean, you know, so it's these types of innovations that when I hear innovation, I just get so happy because we really do. Humankind has always solved their own problems.
Yeah.
Right? We just got to hope that keeps happening and really push for that. I mean, that's all we can really do.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, you know, you look at us on a global scale, and yes, Canadians put out more carbon emissions, but
Per capita.
per capita. But
As a whole, it's lower than
yeah, but
anybody.
as a whole, it's like
Yes.
1.5% of the
Yes,
world,
exactly.
right? So, but then look over at China. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, you know, you go vegetarian and I double up on my Big Mac, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I'll eat for the both of us, right?
The thing is, William Burt actually spoke really interesting about that. He goes,
Yeah.
there's certain things that we have, like the reason why our per capita carbon emissions is so high is big country,
Right.
cold country.
Cold country, yeah.
Like, so
for
we're
sure.
driving a lot more to get to certain
Driving,
places.
we don't have
have to heat
transit,
our cars and heat
yeah.
our homes in a
Yeah.
different way.
Yep.
So that's a lot of reason why.
Yeah.
So it was actually, you know what? Anyone who is like in that climate debate in terms of like, you know, what we should be doing, should it be us who's lowering it? Honestly, should listen to that episode with him. It was very well balanced.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
he basically, he said it starts with government. Is what he said, right? It doesn't necessarily start with you and I. It starts with government.
It starts with
and
government,
policies.
but it starts with
Which is-
enabling innovation. It starts with
Yeah, like what he was doing.
not different from what we're saying about groceries, right? Let's
Right.
talk about energy.
But
Let's talk about competitive solutions.
the one, and I've actually had discussions with Pierre Poilievre in Ottawa and his caucus is don't come out, criticize a policy, the carbon tax, carbon pricing, and not offer any solutions.
Agreed.
Canadians want to be good environmental stewards. I mean,
Yeah, of course we do.
We have a
I
climate
do.
change
Yeah.
problem,
Yeah.
and even though we're only 2% of all carbon emissions in the world, per capita,
Yeah.
we do pollute a lot
Yes.
in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I think the Canadians are not necessarily in favor of carbon pricing or carbon taxes in particular, but they want a solution.
Agree, 100%.
So-
I'm kind of in that category. I would
Yeah.
put myself in that
Yeah,
category.
it's up. Same.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So yeah. So if you're talking next time you're talking to Pierre Poilievre, tell him the best thing to do would be come
Come on
talk
the
to us.
afternoon pint. Tell them to have a beer with us.
Maybe I should. Yeah,
We'd love
absolutely.
to have We'd love to have more.
We'd love to have him here.
And Trudeau as well, and
and
Mr.
Jagmeet.
Singh. I've reached out to
Absolutely.
all three of
Instead
those
of
guys
eating
now.
an apple, you should be drinking
Drinking
a
a
beer.
cider.
Drinking
No,
a beer.
cider.
Yeah, we'll set him up with the cider.
Set him up with the cider. We'll bring
You
him
serve
here.
it a cider.
He'll drink
Yeah.
the cider.
How do you like them apples?
Yeah, how do you like them apples?
So there you
Yeah, exactly. That's funny.
Honestly, I, you know what? I think that's where we end this thing because that was
Yes.
good. Honestly, so
I think that's a good closure. So
Yeah.
Thank you so much again for coming to hang a beer
my
with us.
thank you very
We
much.
appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Cheers.
And a
Great
third
stuff,
pint is
guys.
always an option. Maybe we'll see you again December. Who knows?
yeah, exactly.
Every 6 months, no problem.
That'd be cool. Cool with me. So thank you so much again, guys. Thanks for listening. Burnside Brewing, check them out. They're awesome, and the beers are. They don't miss. They have a
No,
lot of
they
great
don't miss.
beers here, so check them out. Thanks again.